So I'll now call our meeting to order. Our first order of business is approval of the minutes of April 23rd, 2014. Could I please have a motion for approval of those minutes? Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it, and the minutes are approved. Could I please have a motion to confirm the list of civil commissions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it, the list of civil commissions is approved. Are there any nominations to place on the list of civil commissions? Councilor Pappas?
Governor, I'd like to add the name of Stephen Pliakis of Manchester as a notary, and also the name of Claude Benjamin of Bedford as a justice of the peace.
Anyone else? Seeing none, those names are entered into the nominations for list of civil commissions. We have no resignations this week, so we will move on to confirmations. We have two confirmations for the Compensation Appeals Board. Could I please have a motion to confirm Hamilton R. Kranz of Dover?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it, Mr. Kranz is confirmed. Could I please have a motion to confirm Christopher T. Regan of Durham?
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it, and Mr. Regan is confirmed. For the State Board of Education, could I please have a motion to confirm William A. Duncan of Newcastle?
Governor, I'll put forth the name of Bill Duncan of Newcastle for discussion.
Second. Any discussion? Councilor Simeon?
Well,
Oh, I'm sorry.
no, if I could, I would like to just say that Mrs. Duncan from All Communication is highly qualified, is someone that is an outstanding citizen, a veteran, business leader, and someone who's very concerned about education. However, I cannot support his confirmation primarily because of his approach to education and the comments that he has made in the past towards different groups within the education community, such as his opposition to some aspects of charter schools, his opposition to school vouchers, his opposition in some cases of homeschooling, and also his most current litigation involvement against the state of New Hampshire in regards to education tax credits. I think he's presented himself as a political activist who's concerned about education, but I think he's taking the wrong approach. I think he has burnt bridges when it comes to educational options here in the state of New Hampshire. And to place him on the actual Board of Education, where several bridges would already have burnt with other various constituencies that I just mentioned, would not benefit the state of New Hampshire. I think part of the responsibility of someone going on the Board of Education is to have a thorough understanding of the various educational options in the state of New Hampshire, and that you have to come into the Board of Education with an open mind, and that you're going to work with all educational groups in the state of New Hampshire. I'm fearful that Mr. Duncan will create polarization on the Board of Education that doesn't need to happen. There have been a lot of people who have reached out to me and to executive counselors with regards to his confirmation. People that across the spectrum who really come out and strongly in opposition to Mr. Duncan to be placed on the Board of Education. I've only served a short while on governing council, and but this particular confirmation has yielded a tremendous amount of response, in some cases outrage. I understand that he's very supportive of public education. I'm a product of public education. I have 2 kids in public education. I commend him for that. but there are other citizens that I respect and admire who want to educate their kids in a different environment, such as a charter school environment, if they can apply for school vouchers, or if they want to homeschool their children. So I feel, while he probably has qualifications, I don't think he's the right choice for New Hampshire. And I think at the end of the day, we want to put people on these boards that have a broad viewpoint and will represent all interests before they even get to the commission board. And I think he brings in a certain political activism that I don't think is healthy for the state of New Hampshire. So I'll just leave my comments at that.
Thank you. And Councilor Sununu.
Thank you, Governor. I think I'm just going to echo some of the sentiment that Councilor Kenny brought to the table. I know Bill pretty well. We actually ran against each other. I think he's a nice guy. I give Bill a lot of credit, and I said this to him when I talked the other day. He is incredibly passionate. There's no doubt about it. And he really believes what he steps forward and fights for, and I give him a lot of credit for that. And again, I don't want to tread all over all the same ground. I think, Councilor Kenny, you brought up something I had not considered, and that is the burning bridges aspect. There are folks out there who Bill, he's polarizing, he's passionate, we all are. I mean, that's why a lot of us are here. But there is a time and place for that. I don't see that on the Board of Education. I can't speak for everybody, but to echo again, over 100 phone calls about this nomination, more than I've had since in this entire term, and emails, and I'm assuming most of you got them as well. And whether you agree with his viewpoints, and most of the viewpoints I don't agree with, but that's fine. It's okay to disagree. It's not political. I think he's a bit political for the position, but it really showed me that there were across the state, and it wasn't just my district, it was really across the state, there were people that are really galvanized against a lot of the, I don't want to call it vitriol, but a lot of the things he said. And I brought a lot of the quotes to him that people and that I've read that were on his website. I said, is this real, Bill? You know? And he said, yeah, it was all the quotes I gave him were right, very accurate. He says he supports charter schools, and I think he does to a certain extent, but only within the constraints he wants to see. He says he supports homeschooling and alternative education. I'm a huge believer in it, but it's got to kind of be within his constraints. I don't know if that's the open-minded and impartial attitude that I'd like to see on the Board of Education. Most importantly, to wrap up, he's the lead plaintiff on a major lawsuit in the state on the tax credit issue. And whether you believe in that issue or not, it's hard to claim impartiality when you're the guy suing the state, and it's not something that happened in the past or will. It's active. It's in the courts now. Right now, I know that issue is not before the Board of Education, but to the board's credit, it's a very powerful board, as a lot of us know. There's very little in education that they don't get their fingers in at some level. I think that's a good thing. It takes. They're a great resource for the department to use, I think, as a regulatory resource and as kind of a second set of eyes in where we should go and helping set policy. I think that's a very good thing. I like that the board has the power that it does. But ultimately, this tax credit issue is a very major issue. It's the biggest piece of education legislation that's passed in the past year or so. And without a doubt, it will come before this board. It's a little awkward to have the lead plaintiff that fought it to be on there. I think if the timing were different, I think I might see this nomination a little differently. But I think the timing is really poor. So I guess I'll leave it there. He's a very nice person. I love that he's passionate. We all are. I just think the timing is bad, and it's just too political, I think, for a board with that amount of reach. I'll leave it there.
Councilor Pappas and then Councilor Sununu, and then I'm noting that we have some school children, so actually maybe before we go to your comments, we'll let these young people continue on their tour, but who do you have?
We have the students of Fuller Elementary School from Keene, New Hampshire.
Welcome.
Hey guys, how you doing? Good. My name's Colin. I serve as your executive counselor in Keene and 48 other towns around the state. Anybody know what the executive council is or what we do? Venture a guess? So right now we're figuring out who to hire. Our job is really to help the governor. That's the governor at the end of the table there. Maggie Hassan. We help her decide who to hire to do work for the state. A lot of them are volunteers, like the job we're looking at today. The discussion we've just been having is about, we have a state board of education that oversees all our schools, and there are 7 people on that board, and we're deciding about one of them who's being appointed right now. So when you think about who we should have volunteering or working for the state, what do you think some of the things are that we should look for in a candidate? Anybody have any ideas? How about this? Your best teachers. Tell me something about one of your best teachers. What do you like about them? There's a hand, yeah?
One of my best teachers is Miss Dahl's right now, and I love that she's always so cheery and she's so nice.
Cheery and nice. We have some fantastic cheery and nice people in our state government. I'm looking at one right here. One of our biggest state agencies with a big grin on his face. What else? What do you think? What do you like from your teachers? Yeah?
Well, I always get all the good teachers, so I can't decide.
You have too many good teachers to decide? That's a good problem to have. I'm glad to hear it. One more.
I say like all my teachers that I had and will have,
Yeah.
because they might give all like great homework.
Good homework. Yes, we get a lot of good, so this is our homework, this right here. This is actually all our homework just for the meeting that we're having today. So that's what you have to look forward to. But so the executive council, we help decide who should be in these jobs. Sometimes we don't agree. Right now we're having a discussion. Some of us think we should appoint this candidate, others don't. You know, it's really important that we have good state schools, that we ensure that your education is the best that it can be. I'm really proud of the schools that we do have in New Hampshire, and it's why all of us take it so seriously. And we also look at a lot of spending decisions and things like that. So I'm going to stop there because we have an exciting treat for you, which is each of you get to meet and shake hands with our governor, Maggie Hassan. How's that sound?
You want to do that?
Yeah.
Yeah, all right. So come on in single file line and tell her your name when you get to her.
Thank you.
I got the impression when he was asking the kids, they knew what the executive council was looking for an answer. What is it?
So I think I have just recognized Councilor Harris.
Sure, thank you, Governor. That was actually a good reminder of why we do this, as you said, Colin, and I think why Bill does it. I'm going to be supporting Bill Duncan's confirmation today. I think Bill is passionate about education. He is someone who's come out of the business community, which I think is a valuable asset to that board. I spoke yesterday with Tom Raffio, who also has business experience. Tom gave Bill a glowing recommendation, thinks he's going to be an asset to that board, and I agree. And, you know, we've heard a lot from folks over the last couple days, from people on both sides of the equation who think Bill either has the qualifications or may not have the best qualifications. But I think what I got out of that process was that people are passionate about education. And the people I heard from, especially those folks who send their kids to charter schools, are very passionate about the schools, tuition sending kids, and the teachers are just as well too. So I took that to Bill because I had some concern that these schools need to be supported. There are many in my district, including NC Squared, Polaris, Mill Falls, and I talked to Bill about those, had some very important conversations with him, and he gave me the commitment, without hesitation, that he supports the missions of these schools, that he's going to work to build bridges for these parents and move these institutions, and I believe him that he will do that. And I think when you look at public education in New Hampshire, Bill understands the connection between our economy and strong public schools. He's seen that in the business world, and that's something that's motivated him to become an advocate for public education in New Hampshire. So I look forward to supporting him today. I think he's going to be an asset to that 7-member board. And I think as we move forward, I think people will be surprised the ways in which Bill is going to operate. He always operates, I think, with an open mind. He's driven by data and facts, not by ideology necessarily. And so I think he's going to try to do the right things for our schools. He's going to be an asset and work well with that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilor Van Osten?
Thanks, Governor. I'm going to be supporting this nomination as well because I think the nominee has proven himself to be a real champion for public schools in the state. It's great to hear fourth graders tell us what they think is important. And if the litmus test is being cheery and doing your homework, I think that we have a good candidate. Probably a little more than that also, but sometimes it's good to listen to what the kids say is important too. I think there's no question that he's been an outspoken advocate on a number of issues. One is the concerns he's had over the voucher or educational tax credit law in the state. I think that's a mainstream position. It's one that you've advocated for and supported the same lawsuit that he's taken forward. There's no question that that raises some concerns amongst folks who are opposed to that issue, but that's the great thing about our state, and it's great that so many people are involved, that we can have a healthy discussion of that. I also talked with him at length about charter schools. I think, some of the feedback I've gotten, I've had dozens of constituents call both in favor and against this nomination. And a lot of it was really informed discussion about views that they agreed with him on or disagreed with him on. I think in the area of charter schools, there was some communication that was painting him with a bit of a broad brush, frankly, as compared to the feedback I got from him. He talked with me about visiting 4 different charter schools in recent months. I think actually one of them was one that you mentioned, MC Squared. But also the North Country Charter School and Great Bay Charter School and some others. And it's clear to me that he sees that they have an important role to play in cooperation with our public education in the state. I don't think he's either a champion or an enemy of charter schools. And I think that's appropriate on our Board of Education. So I'm pleased with this nomination, and I'm really grateful for all the feedback that I've gotten from so many folks on such a wide spectrum on this issue.
Thank you, Governor. I am also going to support this nomination. I echo the words that Chris Pappas and Colin Van Osten say. I was fortunate enough to talk to many people, mostly yesterday, mostly very cordial, and I enjoyed hearing their perspectives, mostly about charter schools and should we be funding religious schools with a tax break for our businesses. As a matter of fact, it netted me an invitation to come to our charter school in Nashua, which I'm happy to do, and bring my grandson the week after next. The problem in this state is that we don't fund education and traditional public schools at the amount that we should be funding it. And so the fear is that when you start to siphon off some of the money that would go to traditional public schools, and most of our children now and in the near future are going to be going to traditional public schools. When you start to siphon off that money to go to another school, innovative as it may be, you are depriving the children, most of the children, of the education that they deserve to have. So until we figure out another way to fund our traditional public schools properly, we are going to have this conundrum and this breakdown, so that whenever someone comes before us who has concerns about funneling money off to go toward charter schools, I'm afraid we're going to have this discussion. And some of the people who called me, it was pretty obvious they were misinformed about his support for some charter schools. He told me that he had visited charter schools, and he actually said that traditional public schools should be looking at these charter schools and modeling what works well in them, and I believe this is the case. But I think that his voice will be a valuable voice on the State Board of Education. We need all perspectives on our different boards and commissions, and I think he will offer an excellent perspective of a passionate supporter of our education system. We all want to do what's best for the children in our state, and our means of getting there are a little different. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else, any further discussion? I would just add that I am pleased to nominate a businessman and a creator who understands the value of public education and a veteran who understands the value of standing up for our Constitution. So with that, all in favor of Mr. Duncan's nomination, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
The ayes have it, and Mr. Duncan is confirmed.
Croc TV.